I want to introduce Sierra Business Council's board chair, Alan Pietrasanta. Alan is a pretty remarkable guy, I have to tell you. In the spring of 1977, he stopped making the endless trek from Los Angeles to the Sierra Nevada and moved to Bishop. Smart man, I think. He worked at a ski shop for several years to get his feet on the ground on the east side. And then he started a small manufacturing company, a sewing manufacturing company. I think it's kind of funny. He said it's like before they even had laptops and they had personal computers, he was making bags for personal computers and employing 30 people on the east side of the Sierra Nevada doing that. So this is one of those technology spin-off companies, right, Alan? That's the, Since 2003, he's been the national sales manager for the J. Rosek Toy Company, and it's another manufacturing and distribution-based company based on the east side of the Sierra Nevada. I think his bane is that it makes him travel probably, maybe a third of your time? This is a pretty tough thing. Alan's been involved in Sierra Business Council really from the beginning. When I mentioned yesterday that people were interviewed by Lucy and that there were notebooks of interviews, Alan was one of those interviewees and really has been involved with Sierra Business Council since then. He's been on our board of directors for, 12, 14 years?
At least.
Yeah, at least. Like a lifetime. Longer than some people serve on the board of supervisors.
There's no term limits.
And he was very involved in some of our early publications, including Planning for Prosperity and Investing for Prosperity. And he's also facilitated some pretty difficult community issues on the east side in the past. So he's taken those Sierra Leadership Institute skills and used them as a community leader as well. And when I'm worried and have trouble, I can call Alan, which I really appreciate. So Alan Pietrasanta, thank you very much. We shouldn't say such is life. There's at least one picture of Alan I think we have to show. This is his hometown, Manzanar, which we all know. Petroglyphs on the east side, but I love that picture. Look at the size of those boots.
I noticed right off.
And what year was that?
That was probably in the late 80s, early 90s. And those were ski boots. We skied from that position.
Thank you, Alan.
I'm not accustomed to a microphone. Is this working?
No. You need to be closer.
Is this working better?
Maybe a little bit more.
Much closer. I've been
Good.
told I have a loud voice, but I guess I need assistance tonight. We've spent the last day and a half talking about innovation, and tonight I get to talk about celebration. So we get to be part of that tonight. And before I start, I really want to recognize somebody who's been very important to Sierra Business Council and very important to me personally over time. I'd like to recognize the previous chair of the board, Rich Morrison. If I can, you have to stand up, Rich. Rich has served this board and this organization tirelessly for many years, and I just really appreciate all the work that you've done. Thank you very much. So, a few days ago, I woke up at the base of Cathedral Peak in Tuolumne Meadows, and I was with some friends who were backpacking after a 10-year hiatus of going in the mountains. And they asked me as the sun was bathing the cathedral granite in the early light as we were drinking coffee. Do you ever get tired or complacent about your time in the backcountry of the Sierra? And I didn't take a breath. I didn't need to think about it. My response was direct and emphatic. Never. I never get tired of this mountain range. The splendor and the magnificence of the Sierra Nevada is ingrained in my heart, and it's a part of me and has been for decades. It's that love of the Sierra that got me involved with Sierra Business Council 20 years ago. We were a group of enlightened, I guess you would say, creative, and there were other brilliant people. I don't fall in that category, but there were other brilliant people who got together and from an organic situation grew this organization. But what bonded us, it wasn't a recruiting situation. I will admit that there was some nudging and there was some lobbying and there was some cajoling that went on. But we went across the Sierra and found people 20 years ago that were frustrated with the environmental movement. We were frustrated with the polarization that we saw in our communities. We were frustrated with the silly decisions being made by political leaders and decision makers about sprawl, economic policy, harm to the environment. So we worked organically to put together this idea of the triple bottom line. We believed that there was a way to blend ideas and blend concepts and make decisions and improve our communities without litigation and without a lot of adversity. We believed that there was a different way to deal with the tug-of-war of economic growth and change and the health of the environment. We cultivated this approach of the triple bottom line, and we professed that growth and change could happen at the same time of maintaining environmental health. We've always, as an organization, stood proud that we've been able to do this work from the center. We were influenced by nature. I'm very influenced by nature. Its harmonies, its cycles, its integrations, its connectedness. I can't help at this point but quote John Muir. It's a quote everybody knows. When we try and pick out anything by itself, we find it hitched to everything else in the universe. You've all heard that, but that's the glue that keeps the triple bottom line together. Articulating that idea 20 years ago was a fresh and clean approach. It's kind of like snowmelt in the spring that brings new life to the landscape. Now we know, now there are corporations, as we talked about today, Schedule B corporations. There are organizations. There are people in all walks of life that are embracing the triple bottom line concept. I was amazed to read about the United Nations conference 2 weeks ago. While Terry Tempest Williams and Sally were walking the streets of New York, Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, was inside testifying that suppliers for Apple Computer were going to be required to have renewable energy sources for their factories. Apple, Facebook, Google have all made commitments in their data, for power in their data centers to come from renewable energy. They're requiring places where they want to relocate, like Iowa or North Carolina, to have renewable energy sources as a condition of locating there. In front of world leaders, Mr. Cook, the CEO of Apple, there's only one Apple. Mr. Cook, and I can't believe that he said this, but this is unbelievable when you think about Sierra Business Council. He rejected the idea that society must choose between economic growth and environmental protection. Sound familiar? That's Apple Computer. So 20 years later, we know with certainty that Sierra Business Council is on the right track. We have tools, we have passion, we have love, and we have empathy. And we also have knowledge that we use. Terry made a very good point last night that whether it's in this country or around the world, we have knowledge that we're not using for good decision making. That is not what SBC does. We have knowledge and we use it to make good decisions for ourselves and our communities. So over the 20 years, it's been very gratifying to share the work of people who embody what SBC is all about. Calling out leaders who've accomplished great things for the landscape, for our communities, and for collaborative process. So tonight, it's my honor to recognize 4 individuals with the Vision 2020 awards who exemplify what we're all about. In a world where we are loudly defining our differences and experiences that are pulling us apart from one another, these people that we're going to recognize tonight are what I call practitioners of social remedy. They represent a style of stewardship that builds partnerships, creates businesses as social networks, and promote assets in their communities. It's important that we stand up for people like this. So the first award I want to give out is to a gentleman from the Kern River Valley area, Richard Rowe. He's a graduate of Placerville High School and higher education at the University of Southern California in architectural design. He spent a fair amount of his early career doing redevelopment work in downtown Los Angeles. I was quite excited to see that he was involved in revitalizing Angel's Flight, which was something that was in and out of existence as I was a kid growing up in Los Angeles. In the Sierra Nevada, Richard became a true rural community leader when he moved to the Kern River Valley, where he's been a steady voice for collaboration and finding common ground to address community issues while adopting a lead from the middle ethic. At the Kern River Valley Revitalization, he's been deeply involved in the 2006 Community Plan, the Kern River Valley Bike Plan, the Community Streets Project, and he's spearheaded a night skies ordinance that's bringing back the stars to the Kern River Valley. He's also helped lead a community project to glean agricultural products to help supply the local food bank. For all of these things and more, Richard was awarded the Kern River Valley Man of the Year in 2012. Actually, SBC is a little late to the table with our award tonight. For his unique leadership style, his articulation of rural community interests, and his understanding of how to get things done, the quiet man deserves his due. Richard Rowe.
I want to take it all down. Anyway, I first came to the Sierra in 1966. I was 15. My mother, in her wisdom, had been a Navy nurse World War II in Alameda. They had come up and had a picnic on a rock in American River. And she had the notion she wanted to come back to that very place where they had the picnic and live. So she took myself and my 2 brothers, one of which, Tim, is here. Many of you may know Tim. Tim retired from the USGS, worked on Lake Tahoe for USGS, and now is involved with bicycles with the Nevada Department of Transportation. But anyway, I spent 2 years in the Sierra then, in the Placerville, Paul Pines area, and then went south, and I never really thought that I would come back. Somehow it happened though. Friends had retired to the Kern Valley, and I was tired of the scene in the Palm Springs area, and I decided one time I visited them to make an offer on a place, and I moved there in 2004. I got involved with an organization called Kern River Valley Revitalization. And one of the other Vision Award recipients was the president at that time, Chuck White, the now late Chuck White, so I honor him. Anyway, it's been a great experience for me. It's mostly about facilitation and coordination, something that we learned a lot from another 20-year-old organization, Sierra Business Council. Making connections, using those connections to get things done. So it's the Dark Sky Ordinance, just an example. One of our members saw a reference in the agenda on the Board of Supervisors, the word dark sky in one of the consent calendar items. So we looked it up, we found out, oh, the action was receive and file. And they said, no, that can't stand. So we got together, 4 or 5 of us in the valley. We divided up who would say what. We connected with all the astronomy clubs in the county. Said, call your supervisor, help us get this off the consent calendar. We went down to Bakersfield, which is 45 miles as you drive down the twisty Kern River Valley Canyon, but a light year in any other way, away from where we live in the Kern Valley. It's just 16,000 people surrounded by natural, wonderful, wonderful things, wilderness areas and whatnot, none of which are incorporated. So we're very disconnected, we feel, from our county government. We got down there and we each brought a point of why the dark sky was important, not just to our community, but to the county and to the state, and how we were one of the 2 or 3 best places to see the dark sky in the country. Much to our surprise, the Board of Supervisors, who had been already lobbied by the people we called, said yes, and they directed the department to draft an ordinance, and now we have one. One of a handful of counties in the state have a dark sky ordinance. Now we have to be vigilant at its interpretation and its how it goes, but that's an example. I am really, when I learned of this surprise, I was on one hand really surprised, and the other hand really gratified. It felt great, it feels great to get this, and I very much appreciate being here tonight and receiving this award. Thank you very much.
What we have tonight is beautiful images from the Sierra, from the Carmel Gallery up in Truckee, California. So Richard, we hope you put that proudly on your wall.
Oh, I will. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next recipient, Tim Beals, is a model of fortitude in my mind. In the Sierra Nevada, directors of public works and planning come and go, usually every 4 years or so. It's a tough job, everybody wants something, and government is often pushed from the edges with special interests instead of working in the middle where pragmatic solutions are often made. In Sierra County, Tim Beals has staying power. He is now the longest serving planning director in the state of California. 41 years. Well, how does that happen? He works in one of the most difficult places in California. It's also very beautiful, but he works in a jurisdiction where the population is shrinking, tax revenues have fallen, but his county is strong because people like Tim Beals have the courage to recommend and make tough decisions. He's had a unique ability to gain trust with his local elected leaders. He's leveraged his personal passion for doing things right, and his commitment to place has evolved into a steady leadership. He's a critical partner in protecting one of the most important places in California, the remarkable Sierra Valley, headwaters of the Feather River and the State Water Project. By working across boundaries to ensure conservation and economic development can occur at the same time. That picture is the classic picture of a man at work. This year, as our state and nation increasingly have recognized the risks of drought and wildfire, Tim has helped his county take a historic step, issuing a set of forest policy ordinances that call for a new Sierra-wide focus on forest planning, fuel load reduction, biomass utilization, and economic revitalization based on improved management of forest resources. He's challenged in a state where actually there's entities calling for secession. Sierra County has stepped up and called for a rational, focused, and collaborative effort with state and federal leaders to develop a long-term and sustainable program to reduce land fire severity conditions on public and private lands, and challenged the fellow Sierra Nevada governments to step up. We hope leaders from every county will join Sierra County in this effort. For his legacy of leadership, a true Sierra visionary, Tim Beals. Before I have Tim come up, though, I would like Lee Adams is going to come up and say a word.
Alan, thank you very much, and thank you all for letting me crash this party. First, congratulations to Sierra Business Council's 20-year anniversary. And as a member of the Sierra County Board, and I think I speak for the entire board, we very much appreciate Tim being recognized tonight. I can think of no one more deserving as you think about your home counties of how they've changed since 1973. Sierra County is very much like it was in 1973, and it's because of Tim's vision. No one has had a greater impact on the 1,000 square miles that we call home. We appreciate him. I would like to think this award, however, is just a halfway milestone of his career, because we hope he's around another 40 years. So again, thank you very much. I also noticed that he did clean up his office for that photo. And when we talk about fire severity in the Sierra, that's what we have in mind. Before Tim comes up, though, I want to say something about somebody near and dear to him, and that is his wife, Marcia, who's here tonight. She has her own impressive career as well as the general manager of the Tahoe Truckee Sanitation Agency, so she's not always home pining for him. But regardless of that, she has had a lot of plans torpedoed because of what he's done for Sierra County. I affectionately refer to him as our Saddam Hussein, because he keeps the trains running and everything going in Sierra County. So thank you for recognizing him. And this is for you, Marcia.
Wow. I've been doing this a long time, but I'm nervous. This is a... Yeah, I know. It's been a great ride.
Compared to what
This is different. This is different. But it's been a great ride. I'll tell you, it's been a great ride. You know, I had some notes I prepared for tonight, and I spilled wine all over it. I can't read it anyway, so I'm not sure how I'm going to do. But I'm pretty impressed with this conference. I've met some pretty neat people tonight. I've rekindled some friendships from people I haven't seen in a while, and made some great contacts. And Alan, thank you for your kind words. That picture of me in my office, there's some things in there that I really hope you didn't see.
We can zoom in.
Don't. That's a
Where's the
lawsuit.
state of Jefferson flag?
That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. But I also thank very kindly Lee Adams. I'm very honored that Lee and other members of the board thought enough of me to nominate me for this award. It doesn't get any better than that, and I'm humbled by it, and I appreciate it very much. I'm also very honored to be a recipient of the award because of the reputation and what the Sierra Business Council stands for. You know, when Steve called me a few weeks ago and said I'd been nominated, you know, I started getting a little suspicious. First of all, Steve, you know, we talk, but Steve doesn't call me all the time, and so he kind of beat around the bush, and of course I took it hook, line, and sinker. But then I began to realize that, you know, this is not your typical Steve Frisch phone call. And when he told me that I had been a recipient of one of the awards, I was genuinely speechless. You know, this job has been to some extent my life, and I take it very seriously, and I'm very passionate about it. And when he told me that, I really didn't know what to say. Some may find that hard to believe, but I genuinely just I'm humbled by it. All I can say is that it's awesome, and I really appreciate the fact that the membership thinks enough of me and what has occurred to provide an award of this magnitude. You know, Marcia, my better half, she's put up with a lot over the 41 years. It's been a lifetime of phone calls, meetings, late nights, emergency call-outs, a lot of stress, and a lot of things that is pretty typical of the life of a public official in a small county. Between the two of us, we have about 80 years of public service, and we're both pretty proud of that. You know, we've lived in Sierra City all of our life, all of our married life. We raised two boys. One's a game warden in Chico, and the other's a service manager and a car dealer in Chico, and they both graduated from Chico State. And I got to tell you, that's tough for me to swallow. I'm a humble. I'm a lumberjack. I'm not a wildcat. So who's a wildcat? So it's tough to swallow both sons graduating from my former football nemesis, Chico State. But you know, as Alan stated, and I'm sure my good friend Tony out there will attest to, when he was a county planning director early in his career, the motto that we live by as a county planning director, knowing that a life expectancy of a director in the political world that we live in is probably 3 to 5 years. Our motto was, any Tuesday and 3 votes and you're down the road. And you know, the life of a planning director and the work of a planning director is tumultuous. It's full of politics. It's a minefield. It's like playing political whack-a-mole. It's you know, it's over the years, you also rack up a pretty impressive list of people that don't think too well of you because you've been meddling in their property rights or what they perceive to be their property rights, and you've had to make some pretty tough decisions and make some recommendations that may be counter to their opinions. But with the Board of Supervisors, you know, I've been very blunt and I've been very open and very honest in my advice to the board, probably too blunt at times. I've never changed a staff report. I've never changed a recommendation based on political wins or catering to any special interests. And I hold that as, I cherish that as one of my foundation for what I think is a successful position for a person in my position to have. That has given me the trust, the confidence, and the loyalty from members of the Board of Supervisors over the 41 years that I've worked in Sierra County. And I was just talking with Lee that I think I've probably worked with 32, 31 different members of the Board of Supervisors over 40 years. And that's pretty tough. It's pretty tough. But it doesn't get any better than that. With Supervisor Adams here, it makes it all worthwhile. But again, as you can surmise, my passion is good land use planning, responsible decisions, ones that really truly represent the balance between property use and enjoyment, putting that on an equal footing with the respect and representation for natural resources that make the Sierra such a special place, and that's why we've all chosen to live here. It's a very special place, and I could stand here and talk for hours about the economic conditions, forest health, water quality, fish and wildlife resources. But we need to move off of the stalemate and really the paralysis that's taken on so many of these critical issues. We need to partner with our regional, state, and federal agencies. And now that's not an easy task. But in my opinion, what's within all of our grasp here in this room and locally, and what's, in my opinion, part of the single most critical issue facing the Sierra Nevada, it all boils down to good local land use decisions. Making responsible decisions, not being afraid to say no, having the political wherewithal to do the right thing, make the right choices. These decisions individually and cumulatively can have a measurable effect on the future of the Sierra, and frankly for the survival of the Sierra. This is one of the more precious and unique resources of this state, and frankly, on earth. And what a great place to live. Why are we all here? And it's very special, and it's worth saving, and it's worth protecting. It doesn't mean you have to say no all the time, but it means you have to take responsible leadership. So we're all lucky to be here, and I just want to tell you that I'm humbled and I appreciate and honored by this award. I'll place it right next to my the award that's in my office, if you can see it. Don't. You did it again. The 1996 Vision Award was awarded to the Sierra County General Plan, and that general plan is still in place today, and it's a very, very solid operative document, and it guides land use principles today, so many years into the future. So it's that combination that I'm very proud of, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and thank you very much for having me here tonight.
Our next recipient, Scott Paris, has made it here tonight. I have the utmost admiration for him. He was in New York this morning, if I have that correctly. I don't see where you are, Scott, but he was in New York to accept another award and traveled cross country, got in his car, drove up here through the closure of the fire, and is here tonight to accept this award. If you've driven through the small town of Loomis, you can't miss the High Hand Nursery and Cafe. Few people think anymore about how important the orchards, fruit packing, and access to ice for the rail cars growing over the Sierra Nevada were to our economy. 100 years later, we're rediscovering the value of good local food, lifestyles of health and sustainability, and preserving our heritage. Scott Paris and his family, and make no mistake about it, this is a family business where everyone works. They've built High Hand into a community anchor in Loomis, restoring a 100-year-old fruit packing building as its home base, employing more than 50 people, and earning them a national award from the Independent Garden Center of America. When the recession hit in 2008, Scott and his family resolved not to lay off a single employee because to them, quote, they had a greater responsibility not to screw up. High Hand has become a local center for food, the arts, and information about sustainable business practices. It's a proactive energy user, investing in energy efficiency and installing over 500 solar plant panels on the roof of the fruit sheds. Small business is the backbone of our Sierra Nevada economy. 80% of Sierra Nevada private sector employees work for companies with 10 employees or less. The actions of small businesses adopting triple bottom line values can make a huge difference in our region. Scott and his family and High Hand Nursery and Cafe are an amazing example of what an intensely focused entrepreneur who develops a profitable brand and a unique niche and ties it to environmental responsibility can do in our region. For his example of triple bottom line business values, we honor tonight Scott Paris.
I'm a little bit nervous, so you'll have to pardon me for a moment. You know, I have to digress a minute because it's my way of getting over my own nervousness. You know, some people like pee their pants when they have to speak publicly. You know, I cry. I really do. So if I cry, when I was in 4-H in third grade or something, my mother had to pull me off stage. I won this little award for best lamb or something. I simply bawled. But listen, you know, how many people are staying here tonight? A few people. You know, I've got to vent a little bit. This is my way of getting unnervous. But you know, we flew in. And thank God nobody started a fire in the air traffic control center, so we got through Chicago okay. Because if they had, I would have been late, okay? So got in about 2:30, got in my truck, drove up, was kind of texting, going, okay, what's going on with the fire? Had to get through. So anyway, my collar's a little messed up because it's been in the bag for like 3 days, so I apologize for that. And got up here and I thought, you know, I have a committee in my head, and I thought I need to sit down and just maybe watch about 15 minutes of mindless TV. That's what I thought. I'll watch something stupid, get the voices out of my head so I can relax because I'm really nervous. I got this call like 3 weeks ago, and holy cow, I'm a hermit down in Loomis. Anybody heard of Loomis after tonight? I mean, really, seriously, it's a little side town. High Hand. Who's heard of High Hand? A few people, thank you. But you know, I mean, who names a nursery High Hand? It just doesn't make sense, right? So anyway, I get to my room and I pick up the TV thing and I'm trying to turn on TV and I finally, after pushing like 40 buttons, I got the TV to go on. That's great. But then I couldn't change the channel. I got the volume plus minus. I got that figured out. 15 minutes later, I could not change the channel. Now, I'm not going to go into what was on, but if they had just told me when I checked in that there's 2 TV controllers in the room, You know, and so finally, 15 minutes later, I find the second TV controller. By then, the mindless stuff was already done, right? Because I spent 15 minutes of my life trying to figure out how to operate a TV. So, done. Okay, mark that off the list. I get in the shower trying to wash off 8 hours of travel or 10 hours of travel, and realize there's a hole in my soap. Anybody experienced a donut soap yet? Is that not the coolest thing on earth? Who uses center of soap? Is that not the great use of resources? Save that for another bar of soap, right? So I'm like thoroughly just taken back by my experience here, and I had not heard of this place until I got the award. So this is like new and fresh for me. So, but anyway, seriously. And while I'm in the shower, I'm going through the list of things that I'm going to do. Did I bring my belt? You know, I've been gone for a few days, and I packed and unpacked and packed and unpacked. And I realized I forgot my brush to brush my hair. And that's a true story, and I had to catch myself for a minute and go, wait a minute. Okay, I have not brushed my hair for how many years now? 25 maybe? Why that popped into my head at that moment in time, I have no idea. It never has in my life, okay? I've been bald since I was 22. So at any rate, so I knew then I'd finally flushed the committee out of my head and was calming down, and everything was back to normal again. But anyway, listen, I am grateful and humbled to be here, but I am a small peanut in the world of economics in Lewiston, California, and I'm a very, very small part of High Hand. I may be the one that maybe cocked his pistol and bought 1901, so what's that, 115 years now? The shed's been around. To the chagrin of my family, I called my brother and said, I just bought the sheds. And he says, are you nuts? That thing's a fire trap. I thought, I know. It's still got hot wires hanging everywhere, and no fire sprinklers, and a foot of pigeon poop in the bottom. A machinery that hasn't been on since 1973. And if I don't buy it, it's going to burn down like a Weber barbecue on fire. You know? So anyway, and my wife, holy cow. Upset, very upset. Her comment to me on that day when I made that phone call, and the deal was made like a high hand, it was like a poker game. I'm not going to try to go on here, and thanks for listening, but this is like an Oscar to me, okay? I have been playing the lottery ever since it came out. I bind every freaking raffle ticket, every non-profit I can possibly go to, and won nothing. And out of the blue, I hear about, you know, the Sierra Business Council. I won something. So anyway, so I call my wife and I say, you know, hey, I bought the sheds, and she goes, we're done. You don't understand, we're done. I go, what do you mean? Well, you're ADD, you have attention deficit disorder. And you want to try to develop a shed that hasn't been occupied for 50 years or however long it's been, you know. And I said, well, I'm going to do it. So it's like a therapy thing for me. So I realized if I had not bought it, I'd be ADD for the rest of my life and spiral off into the black hole of life. So we bought the shed, we moved in, we had a little plot of land, you know, and I shook hands at the deal, and the guy came up and said, I want to sell you the shed, and I said, well, Mr. Rosenauer, I'm going to buy the place down the street because I want to expand. And I rented this little piece of property from him to put my construction yard in there for my plants and my landscape business that I've had since, I don't know, 30 some odd years now. So anyway, he said, well, I want to sell you the sheds. And I said, listen, you have more money than me. If this deal goes bad, you're going to owe me for the rest of my life. And I said, all right, fine, okay, real estate agreement, no attorneys, standard bulkhead agreement. You offer me, I offer you, you offer me, I counter. If you don't like my counter, we're done. That's how it went. 10 minutes later, I own the shed. 12 years later, I still own the shed. So, you know, I have a great staff. And listen, I am a small peanut in this world of High Hand. And there is a secret sauce at High Hand. The secret sauce is we have several different entities there. We have stores, we have a landscape construction business, a masonry division. We have about 65 employees full-time. I am honored and privileged, and this is where the tears come, so let me step away. I am honored and privileged to be able to work with people who now have hired their kids. That's how long this has been going on. I'm 49, so I mean, you know, this is like a lifetime for me. And when you get to go to your employees' children's college graduations, then you know that your business is starting to transcend you a little bit, right? And so it becomes to the point where, you know, someone said, Scott, what's your exit strategy? And I said, well, probably when the last person graduates. Because it kind of transcends you a little bit. And we started a farm, we started a restaurant, we started the farm to supply the restaurant. Bad business decision that was. Seriously, growing food for your own restaurant so people can eat farm to fork, are you nuts? Economically, are you nuts? Listen, I get it, right? Okay? But here's the deal. As a business owner, you will cringe if you are a business owner doing that when you see your employee bringing, or your person that you work with bringing zucchini to the restaurant that cost you $250 a pound to deliver. It doesn't make sense, does it? Let's think about this for a minute, right? It just doesn't make sense. But you know what? We do it. We do it because we want to know what we want to know about our food. It's just that simple. And we know that over time, based on passion, perseverance, and making some hard choices along the way, that we will connect the economic side of that with reality and the story, and all that has a value. When we decided to put solar on a 110-year-old fruit packing shed, trust me, it wasn't an easy thing. So I did what everybody does. I called a solar company. 1.9 million was my first estimate. 1.9 million. That's more than I paid for the sheds. Now I realized, listen, how could you justify that as a business? How could you justify that? You can't. I'm not made of money. My wife and I started our business. She gave me a pink slip from a car to put on a down payment to a truck. The pink slip, the car she got was money that she got from the life insurance of her mother passing away. Imagine if I had failed. Mom would have nailed me. Maybe I never met her. So there's a lot of pressure. So that's how we started, right? Alejandro, first employee, 65 later. Now, back to the whole thing. What was I? Solar. So $1.9 million, and I have a really, really great staff. They kind of came to me, some of the head people came to me and said, some of the lead guys said, why are you spending that? Why don't we put our heads together and figure out how to do this ourselves? So it took 2 years to educate ourselves, and we managed to put the system on our roof we put US-made panels on our roof, which was important to me, okay? We did it without government money, okay? We did it without Hollywood math, and $320,000 later, we had our 500 plus panels. So it can be done if you stick to the process of passion and entrepreneurship and just keep driving towards it. So our farm, you saw a picture of Jakob, you saw a picture of Adrian, who I've known since he was 7, and I would come over in his car at age 10, dropping his sister off to play with my daughter, and I'd go, Adrian, don't back over my garbage can again. Dirt road. And, okay, Mr. Paris, he was sitting on a phone book so he could see over the dashboard. Does your father know you're in the car, Adrian? Oh yeah, he knows I'm in the car. Great, you know. So that in line is the secret sauce of High Hand. It really is, and it really kind of boils down just to a couple things, and then I'll walk off. But you know, our secret sauce really boils down to we have a really great bookkeeper. First of all, okay, my wife. She's extremely good, pays the bills way too far ahead in advance for my liking. But really, for me, it really boils down to dirt and ladybugs. And I say that because of this, and you guys are going to think I'm nuts when I get done and go, they gave him that. But for me, you know, I don't have. I'm a sophomore dropout out of high school, okay, and I'm also a PhD, and that's how I had to learn my business, is by becoming a PhD, which is kind of like a professional hole digger. But you know, so dirt is very personal to me. And have you ever really grabbed your hands through, why dirt and ladybugs? Have you ever grabbed your hands through a handful of dirt and smelled it? You know, for me, it rocks me to the core, the soulfulness of that smell. That takes me into my bone marrow. When have you ever felt something into your bone marrow? You know, it's dirt, it's soil. I make my living in it. I don't mess with it. I cultivate it. That's part of our success. And ladybugs, why ladybugs? They're sacred, are they not? Has anybody ever stopped traffic to carry a ladybug to the other side of the street for safety? I have. I do it all the time. So great people that I get to work with, an awesome bookkeeper, quite frankly, and someone that helps me drive a vision. When I put the match to something, they heard the cats, they heard that torch, and they carry it through. And I am humbled to have them working for me. And then simply Dirt and Ladybugs and the farm at Maple Rock. And so with that, I thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me. And like I said, it's like an Oscar. So thank you very much.
Scott, would it be an honor if you would hang this Carmel photo in the shed?
Thank you.
Dirt and ladybugs. That's good. They are important. Not much else is important, but dirt and ladybugs are important. Our final recipient tonight, and I appreciate everybody's patience here, Mayumi Eligado. If anyone told you in 2002 that someone could build a successful business by starting a newspaper, you probably would have thought they were crazy. Print media was just beginning its long decline. Newspapers were laying off serious journalists, and the industry was reeling from the disruptive practices of the internet age. Print was dead, come on. No one could tell Mayumi that. She brought her passion for storytelling and truth to the fore and started a community newspaper, Moonshine Inc., on a shoestring. She wanted to create an authentic publication that reflected the combination of urban and rural, the funk and the fun of the Truckee North Lake Tahoe community. Moonshine Inc. adopted a hybrid delivery of print, electronic, and social media, was the only paper in the region to publish in Spanish as well as English, and became the go-to source for what was happening in the community, giving the more stodgy traditional media a real run for its money. But it's the field of investigative journalism that Moonshine Inc. really shone bright. Mayumi investigated in long format news coverage and investigative journalism when the remainder of the industry abandoned it, covering critical community issues like affordable housing, the decline of gambling, invasive species threats, and watershed restoration. Recently, Moonshine Inc. won a first place award from the National Newspaper Association for Best Environmental Story, Best Serious Column, and third place awards for the Best Business Feature story, beating out both daily and non-daily newspapers. A lot of people in the community have been talking about a story Moonshine Inc. did recently about financial and personnel practices at a local special district. A story that was scrupulously researched and sourced, calling into question how much our community values transparency in the public process. The essence of sustainability is democracy. The guardian of democracy is vigorous free press that creates transparency and encourages accountability. And vision means taking the heat for doing the right thing. A true Sierra visionary and a community leader, Mayumi Eligado.
Well, I guess since Scott woke everybody up, it's my job to put everybody to sleep. So all I ask is that you share if you have any dreams worth sharing. Thank you for this incredible honor from an organization that I greatly admire. When Moonshine Inc. was still a twinkle in my eye, I was inspired by SBC and its guiding principles for creating a sustainable economy in our region. We included the triple bottom line into our mission from the very beginning, recognizing that it's the people, the environment, and the economy that creates our region's wealth. It's not one alone, it's all three. So to receive this award really feels like it's coming full circle. And this honor, I have to say, is shared by all moonshiners, past and present. I've got to work with some of the best of the people around, and I wouldn't be here today without them. There's a few over there, right there. So tonight, I'd like to touch on how Moonshine came to be, my thoughts on journalism, and where I envision Moonshine Inc. going in the future. It really starts with my father, who was a doctor. He was born and raised in the Philippines, and when he graduated from medical school at the young age of 22, he decided that he was going to go to the boonies, and he was going to bring his services to people that probably couldn't get it otherwise. In doing so, he passed up many offers from top medical offices in his country. And he told me he did this because he really believed in going to the rural areas and bringing something to these Native people that they wouldn't be able to get otherwise. He told me years later that he went to these people and he thought, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna teach these people something. When he left, he realized that they taught him way more than he ever could have taught them. And that's been true of my journey with Moonshine Inc. as well. I got a fast track on the Tahoe Truckee community. I moved here 15 years ago. But I feel like in learning what I've done with Moonshine Inc., that I know something, or I know more than I would know if I had lived here twice as long. And I'm the one that's richer for it. I really do believe that. My beloved papa, who passed away in 2010, was bewildered by my choice to move to the mountains and then later do this mad hat idea of starting a newspaper. But then he would look at me and he would flash his toothy grin and he would say, oh yeah, I did exactly the same thing. Both of my parents instilled in me this dedication to community service. In my opinion, if we are not being of service, we are taking up too much space. And I think that speaks to SBC's mission from the very get-go. My former business partner, Ann Brogan, and I started Moonshine Inc. because we wanted to see a publication that produced in-depth stories that help people truly understand the issues and assets of our mountain community, while also reflecting the area's fun and funky community. There's no doubt we were naive. As Alan said, starting a publication in a turbulent time for newspapers is not really a wise business move. Journalists work long hours with really unimpressive paychecks. I can attest to that. I'm still driving my 1997 4Runner, which is still the most beautiful car in the parking lot, just so you know. My father would be proud. He really would. The tenuous state of journalism, especially in America, is well known. In recent years, countless articles about the issue has been published, and many predictions have been made. In fact, when we first started launching Moonshine Inc., there were many people that said that print media would be dead within 5 years. But it hasn't gone away, at least not yet. In fact, all over the country, community newspapers are surviving, some are even thriving. Worldwide, print circulation, you might be surprised to hear, is actually up. The industry still struggles, but there is a need for it, because quality information is crucial in today's information overload. I've heard it even be called infobesity. We humans consume more information more often than ever before. Consider this. From the beginning of time until 2003, we generated 5 billion gigabytes of data. Today, we generate that much data every 10 minutes. I'm passionate about news and information, but there is simply too much out there, too much noise to digest it all. And I don't believe we should try to. What we should do is seek out the cream of the crop and demand quality information. In the beginning, Ann and I thought that the two of us could cover every public meeting in the region, where there's no less than 25 special districts and governmental agencies, several counties, and 2 states. We quickly realized that was impossible, and it's been the challenge of Moonshine Inc. to hone in on what to cover and when. So I want to share tonight what I've come to see as the 3 crucial characteristics of good journalism. Is it relevant? Is it enlightening? Is it memorable? Number 1, at its root, being relevant means having significance. Ask yourself when you're looking at something, is this piece of information or story important? Journalism is the 4th estate, the one given the task to oversee the overseers. But today's journalism no longer just looks at politics. Its central task remains the same. We keep an eye on society and we hold it accountable. So to do this is to constantly question what we're told, to look behind closed doors, and to seek the truth. My advice and my rule of thumb is to stay away from junk food news. Number 2, to enlighten. Give someone greater knowledge and understanding about a subject or situation. Ayman Mohyeldin, an NBC broadcast journalist, said, "There's a difference between information and knowledge. If a bomb goes off in Afghanistan, people can read about it instantly on Twitter, but they won't be able to know what it means. Where did it come from? Who did it? What's happening over there?" That is what journalism can do. And number 3, is it memorable? Journalists, as Kara over there knows, we need to do research, we conduct interviews, and then finally we analyze. And I think there's this perception that every issue has just 2 sides. You know, there's this tendency in journalism to present the pro side, the con side, and there you've got the story. But no issue is just 1 and 2-sided. It's prismatic. There's many angles. There's many gray areas. And I believe that journalists must look at that multitude of viewpoints. And then the challenge is to create a piece that is memorable. And what I find memorable is a well-woven story. This may be the biggest challenge to objective journalism of yesterday, where the rule of thumb was just give us the facts. But it's not just plain facts that sticks to the ribs. What sticks with us are stories. And I think today, and I think that what everybody that works with Moonshine has done, they become storytellers. It's all the rage today in technology to focus on click-throughs and page views. Numbers equal success. But to me, that's not the point of a good story or good journalism. The point is to produce something that endures. And what endures are those things that are relevant, enlightening, and memorable. So I say tonight, seek out the good stuff, share it, and demand it. So that brings me back to Moonshine Inc. We aren't perfect, but we do strive for excellence. And I'm proud to say, as Alan alluded to, that we are recipients of local and national awards, and we have sought out grants to help us fund the investigative journalism that we continue to do. And we are looking for investors who are looking to invest a dying industry that has narrow profit margins. So we will be taking names and numbers tonight. I want to talk lastly about an exciting collaboration project that we launched this year. Its mission and its name is Elevate Tahoe. Our team includes Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation, whose brilliant CEO was a moderator for this conference, and SBS Media House, a video production company. We seek to produce journalistic movies and films that uncover the innovative answers to life at 6,000 feet, in fact, our whole region. It aligns well with this conference focusing on peak innovations. Our first focus was food and how people from all walks of life are helping to create and develop a sustainable food system in our mountain community. The innovations we uncovered are varied, they're inspiring, and they bear witness to a local food revolution. It's elevating to the spirit, and that's why we made this film. The film has been screened within the community several times already, and active discussions and a palpable sense of excitement from audiences lead our team to believe this is a formula that could work. There's actually a screening tomorrow at 12:45 here, so I hope you come to check it out. So our first focus was food, but we've considered other areas to study as well: transportation, affordable housing and living, and water conservation. And we welcome any ideas that may come our way. So this first film came on the heels of the investigative stories about a special district, the Tahoe Forest Hospital District, Alan kind of alluded to, and any locals in the room likely know something about this. It's created quite an ongoing community shakeup, and it's been an experience to be in the middle of a maelstrom such as this. As I walked into one of the Elevate Tahoe screenings recently, something struck me about the contrast between the film and these investigative reports that we were doing. One has created controversial responses, and the other has created this sense of solidarity. And I feel like inadvertently, Moonshine Inc. this summer has come back to one of its main missions from day one, and that is to highlight not only the issues, but the assets of our community. And it has come this summer in stark contrast. So in my mind, journalism doesn't just cover the problems of the world. I think that's one of the things that I've done a little differently with Moonshine than anywhere else. It keeps its eyes wide open to all facets of the community. Whether we get criticized or we receive a round of applause, we are still doing our job, bringing issues to light and informing our readers. Our job is to generate discussion. Or as Oscar Wilde famously said, there's only one thing worse in life than being talked about, and that is not being talked about. So I say, keep talking, people. Keep public discourse alive. Keep journalism alive. Thank you again for this honor. I hope to live up to the title of visionary and keep serving our beautiful Sierra Nevada community.
I'm not even sure how to close after four exemplary leaders stood up here ahead of me. What a treat. Before I close, though, I do want to thank everybody in the room who has come to this conference and hopefully tweaked your mind a little bit, come up with an idea or two. What often happens to me is I drive away from a conference with so many ideas swirling around in my head, I think my brain's going to explode. So I hope that happens with some of you here. And Steve had done it earlier, but I would like to speak from the board and thank from my heart the staff, the SBC staff, for an incredibly good job at the conference. So thank you again. People in the Sierra Nevada are emotional and passionate about building community and solving our own problems. We strive to take care of this place and are deeply connected to the land. We value individual responsibility, which allows us to participate in our communities in positive and beneficial ways. We share common visions about the future of the Sierra Nevada. We are the bold leaders that will empower the people in our communities to look towards a bright future that preserves and maintains the health of this beautiful mountain range we call home. We know, as Terry says in The Open Space of Democracy, which if you haven't read, I highly recommend, the health of the environment is seen as the wealth of our communities. SBC will always be a catalyst for these values. My final words tonight. I'm just impressed and bowled over constantly by the people in this room who give in our communities in such an unselfish manner. Time and time again, meetings, controversies, challenges. So I close tonight with 2 lines from The Sun Never Says. It's a 700-year-old Persian poem that embodies the spirit and pays tribute to all of you in the room and what you do for your communities. It's called The Sun Never Says. Even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, "You owe me." Look what happens with a love like that. It lights up the whole sky. So as we leave tonight and head home tomorrow, my hope is that there's a renewed sense of celebration and love for our families, our friends, our communities, and the environment. Hey, you guys, the future is ours. Thank you very much.